Once upon a time, in a lively town in Nigeria, there lived a beautiful and cheerful young lady named Amara. Amara was very popular on TikTok. She had thousands of followers who loved watching her videos. She was known for her glowing smile and the way she wore wigs that made her look like a queen. Amara had a special business. She sold wigs, long, shiny, and colorful ones. She called them magic wigs, and everyone wanted to buy them. In her videos, she would wear a wig, spin around, and suddenly look even more beautiful. She would smile and say, "If you want to shine like the stars, get your magic wig from me." People from all over Nigeria and even other countries ordered her wigs. When they wore them, something amazing happened. They felt bold, beautiful, and full of confidence. A girl named Ibube, who was always shy, became brave enough to sing in front of her whole school. A man named Ovi, who had never spoken up at work, got a big promotion after wearing one of Amara's wigs to a meeting. But soon, strange things started happening. Ibube began having scary dreams about being chased by dark shadows. Ovi's good luck suddenly turned bad, his car broke down, his house roof started leaking, and he fell sick. Other buyers reported similar problems. They all had one thing in common: they owned Amara's wigs. One day, a woman named Ngozi bought a wig from Amara. Ngozi was a kind and prayerful lady who always trusted God in everything she did. When she wore the wig, she felt a strange energy run through her body. She looked stunning, but something felt off. That night, she had a dream where she saw Amara standing in a dark forest, holding a pot filled with glowing hair strands. Amara was whispering strange words, and the pot seemed to swallow people's names. Ngozi woke up and prayed hard. She decided to investigate Amara and her magic wigs. She started asking questions about where Amara got her wigs and how they worked. When she asked Amara directly, the TikTok star only smiled mysteriously and said, "It's just magic." But Ngozi was not convinced. She felt deep in her heart that something was wrong. Amara's smile wasn't warm, it hid something dark. Ngozi decided to pray even harder and seek advice from someone she trusted, a pastor named Pastor Chibuzo. Pastor Chibuzo was known in the community as a man of faith and wisdom. People often came to him with their troubles, and he prayed with them until the problems were solved. Ngozi visited him after church one Sunday and told him everything: the strange feeling she got from the wig, the dreams, and how people were experiencing bad luck after buying Amara's wigs. Pastor Chibuzo listened carefully, nodding as she spoke. When she finished, he said, "Ngozi, the Bible tells us to test all spirits and hold on to what is good. These wigs may look beautiful on the outside, but we need to pray and ask God to reveal the truth about them." He asked Ngozi to bring the wig she had bought, and together, they knelt and prayed. As Pastor Chibuzo prayed, a strange thing happened. The wig began to feel hot in Ngozi's hands, and she quickly placed it on the table. Pastor Chibuzo opened his Bible and read aloud from the Book of Psalms. As he read, the room felt heavy, as if an invisible presence was pressing down on them. Suddenly, Pastor Chibuzo stopped praying and said, "Ngozi, there is a spiritual connection tied to these wigs. I see a vision, a river where hair is being washed in blood, and a dark shadow standing over it. This shadow is collecting the destinies of those who wear the wigs." Ngozi's heart raced. "Pastor, what do we do?" she asked. "The power behind this is strong, but not stronger than God," he said firmly. "We need to break this spiritual bond, but it won't be easy. The source of this evil must be exposed." Pastor Chibuzo asked Ngozi to gather others who had been affected by the wigs so they could pray together. He also told her to observe Amara closely, especially where she got her supplies from. Amara may not be acting alone, he warned. Ngozi began her mission with determination. She contacted buyers one by one, sharing her experience and Pastor Chibuzo's warning. At first, many were skeptical. Some laughed it off, saying, "It's just a wig. How can a wig cause all this trouble?" Others, however, listened closely, their faces showing the burden of sleepless nights, strange illnesses, and bad luck that seemed to have no explanation. A young woman named Ifunanya broke down in tears when Ngozi visited her. I haven't slept in weeks, she confessed. Every time I close my eyes, I see shadows chasing me. My business is failing, and I've had 3 accidents this month. I thought it was just bad luck, but now I'm scared. Another buyer, a man named Gun, frowned as Ngozi spoke. He had been promoted shortly after wearing the wig, but lost his job a week later due to a mistake he couldn't explain. I didn't want to believe it, he said, shaking his head. But everything has gone downhill since I bought that wig for my wife. Ngozi gathered a group of willing buyers and took them to Pastor Chibuzo's church. He welcomed them warmly and explained the seriousness of their situation. This is not just about wigs, he said. This is a spiritual battle. These wigs are tied to something evil, and we must break that connection through prayer. The group began meeting regularly at the church. They fasted and prayed, seeking God's protection and guidance. Some brought their wigs, and Pastor Chibuzo placed them in a box, praying over them. He warned everyone to avoid using the wigs while they worked to uncover the truth. Meanwhile, Ngozi kept her eyes on Amara. She noticed that Amara's TikTok videos had taken on a strange tone. The once cheerful influencer now seemed anxious, her smiles forced and her eyes darting nervously as if she were hiding something. One day, Amara posted a video with a caption that read, "Magic is real, but not everyone can handle it." Ngozi showed the video to the group, and Gun pointed out a detail that everyone else missed. "Look at her necklace," he said. The camera had briefly caught a glimpse of a pendant shaped like a coiled serpent, glowing faintly. Pastor Chibuzo's face grew serious. "That symbol is no ordinary decoration," he said. "It's a mark of a covenant. Amara may be bound to a dark force." The next step became clear. They had to confront Amara. But they needed to be prepared. Pastor Chibuzo led the group in more intense prayers and encouraged them to stay strong. He also advised Ngozi to continue observing Amara to find the source of her power. Ngozi prayed for courage and began following Amara's online trail more closely. One night, Amara posted a live video, seemingly by mistake. The camera showed her standing in a dark room lit by candles. In the background, Ngozi could hear faint chanting. Amara quickly ended the video, but not before Ngozi noticed something important. The room had walls covered in mirrors, and on a table was a pot filled with what looked like strands of hair. Ngozi showed the video clip to Pastor Chibuzo and the group. "This is it," she said. "This is where her power comes from." Pastor Chibuzo nodded. "We must find that place," he said. "But we must not go alone or unprepared. The enemy knows we are getting closer." Amara, unaware that Ngozi and the group were on her trail, grew more desperate. Strange things started happening to her as well. Her wigs began falling apart, her TikTok views dropped, and she started seeing shadows in her home at night. The power she had once controlled now seemed to be slipping from her grasp. As Ngozi and the group prepared to make their move, Amara started planning her own. She decided it was time to perform a dangerous ritual to strengthen her power, but she didn't know that her time was running out. Ngozi and the group continued their prayers, growing stronger in unity and faith. Pastor Chibuzo reminded them of the importance of patience, saying, "The darkness always fights back when it's about to lose. Stay vigilant, and don't give up." Meanwhile, Ngozi spent more time analyzing Amara's accidental live video. She noticed a faint reflection in one of the mirrors, a window showing the silhouette of tall palm trees and what looked like a wooden hut in the distance. It wasn't much, but it was a clue. "I think this place is near the edge of town," Ngozi told the group during their next meeting. "I've seen those kinds of trees before when I visited the old village near the river." Pastor Chibuzo agreed. "It makes sense. Spiritualists often choose hidden places like that, far from people who might question their activities. But we must not approach in fear. We will go there, but first, we need to be covered in prayer." The group prepared for their journey with fasting and prayer vigils. Each person brought an item of faith, a Bible, a bottle of anointing oil, or a prayer cloth blessed by Pastor Chibuzo. Ngozi felt both nervous and determined. She knew the battle ahead wouldn't be easy, but she trusted that they were on the right path. On the night of the journey, the group set out quietly. They chose a small group to go with Pastor Chibuzo, Ngozi, Adigan, Ifinanya, and a few others who had been deeply affected by the Wigs. They carried lanterns, their faith, and an unshakable belief that God would guide them. When they reached the edge of the forest, they stopped to pray again. The air felt heavy, and the sound of crickets was eerily loud. As they entered the woods, the tall trees seemed to close in around them, their shadows twisting in the dim moonlight. After walking for about an hour, they saw a faint glow in the distance. It was the hut from the video. Candles flickered inside, and strange symbols were painted on the walls. The group paused, holding hands and praying silently before moving closer. Inside the hut, Amara was preparing her ritual. She looked pale and frantic, her hands shaking as she added herbs and hair strands into the pot. The serpent-shaped pendant around her neck glowed faintly, and her lips moved quickly as she chanted words in a language she barely understood. But something was wrong. The power she had always felt so strongly was slipping away. The candles flickered wildly, and the room felt colder. "Why isn't it working?" she muttered, panic rising in her voice. Suddenly, the group burst through the door, their voices raised in prayer. Amara spun around, her eyes wide with shock. "What are you doing here?" she shouted. "You know why we're here," Pastor Chibuzo said calmly, holding up his Bible. "The power you've been using does not belong to you. It has caused pain and destruction to many, and it ends tonight." Amara laughed nervously, though fear flickered in her eyes. "You think you can stop me? You don't know what you're dealing with." Ngozi stepped forward, holding her anointing oil. "We know exactly what we're dealing with," she said firmly. "Your so-called magic is nothing compared to God's power." As the group began to pray louder, the room seemed to shake. The pot on the table bubbled violently, and the serpent pendant around Amara's neck began to burn her skin. She screamed, clutching at it, but it wouldn't come off. "You can't stop me," Amara yelled, her voice mixing with a deeper, unnatural tone. But even as she tried to resist, the power of the group's prayers overwhelmed her. The mirrors on the walls cracked, and the candles went out one by one. Amara fell to her knees, tears streaming down her face. "Please, make it stop," she begged, her voice trembling. Pastor Chibuzo stepped forward, placing a hand on her shoulder. "The only way to stop this is to renounce the power you've been using and destroy everything tied to it. Are you ready to let it go?" Amara hesitated, her trembling hands hovering over the bubbling pot. Her entire life had been built on the power she had drawn from the charms, but now, surrounded by the prayers of the group and the weight of her guilt, she realized the destruction she had caused. Tears streamed down her face as she whispered, "I don't want this anymore. I just wanted to be successful, but not like this." Pastor Chibuzo knelt beside her. "Amara, success built on the pain of others is never true success. If you're ready to let go, confess your actions and surrender everything to God." Amara nodded, her voice shaky. "I'm ready." She reached for the pot and tipped it over, spilling its contents onto the ground. The room shook violently, and a dark mist rose from the pot, swirling around before vanishing with a loud, piercing scream. The serpent pendant around her neck shattered, and the oppressive heaviness in the room lifted. The group continued praying until the atmosphere felt calm. Amara collapsed, sobbing. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice filled with remorse. "I didn't know it would hurt so many people." Ngozi stepped forward and placed a comforting hand on Amara's shoulder. "The important thing is that you've chosen to make things right. Now you must help undo the damage." In the days that followed, Amara confessed her actions publicly. She revealed that she had been approached by a mysterious woman who promised her fame and fortune in exchange for using the enchanted wigs. Amara worked with Pastor Chibuzo and the group to destroy the remaining wigs and prayed with the buyers to break the spiritual bonds tied to them. As the wigs were burned, those who had suffered began to recover. Nightmares ceased, health was restored, and good fortune slowly returned to their lives. Amara, now free from the grip of the dark power, dedicated her life to helping others and warning them against seeking shortcuts to success. Moral lesson. This story teaches us that true success cannot come from deceit or harming others. It reminds us to be cautious of what we embrace, especially when it promises quick and easy rewards. Always seek divine guidance and integrity in your actions, for only good foundations can lead to lasting happiness and peace. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed our story. Please like, share, and subscribe to our channel.